Welcome back. Dr. P here with 3 things you should never do before ADHD testing and one bonus tip that I will offer at the end. So, welcome back. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and I provide ADHD and autism testing for folks throughout California. And in today's video, I want to share 3 things you should never do before ADHD testing. 3 things that unfortunately we see in ADHD testing sometimes because folks either didn't know or they weren't thinking about it, but they can really impact the results of testing and make them inaccurate. So let's start with number 1. The first thing you should never do before ADHD testing is prepare. Now, what I mean by that is preparing by trying to get access to any assessments or tests that you think may be included beforehand. This is something that some people do, and usually it's coming from a really good place, right? You're wanting to show on the test either how much you are struggling or how well you can do in certain areas. There's a mix of reasons why we might do that. But when we try to access tests ahead of time and we preview the questions or the kinds of activities we're going to have to do, what will happen is that when the clinician who is going to administer that test to you goes to administer the test, they are not going to get an accurate representation of your abilities or your functioning. So inadvertently, you could be kind of messing with the results so that they're not accurate. Now, of course, we want to understand the kinds of struggles you're having, the places where things just feel hard, the places where things feel easy, where you're doing well. But in order to do that, we need you to not prepare for the tests. We need you to not try to access the kinds of questions or things that will be on the test. The second thing that you should never do before ADHD testing is skipping out on sleep. In order for us to get a nice, accurate assessment of your functioning and the various parts that we're testing for, we do want to see you well rested so that you can perform on the tests. Now, what can happen is if you're not well rested, we could again get an artificial exacerbation of some of the symptoms, or it may be inaccurate in other ways. So you definitely want to get a good night's rest, or preferably a few good nights rest if you're struggling with sleep. And the third thing you never want to do before ADHD testing is using substances of any kind. Now, this includes alcohol or any other kinds of substances. And for sure, not using substances those hours before the testing. These kinds of substances will impact, of course, how you think and how you show up during testing, and they can skew the results. To be safe, try to skip at least a couple days of using substances. Now, this video is not about whether you should or shouldn't use substances, and it's certainly not me telling you how to make those decisions. It's simply me saying that by using substances in the couple days or at minimum a few hours that day of testing, it can really skew the results and make them inaccurate. I'm going to give you a bonus tip, and it kind of piggybacks off that last one, and that is to not stop taking medications before testing. Now, I'm talking about prescription medications. So specifically, if you're already on some sort of ADHD medication or a medication that is supposed to target ADHD or any other mental health diagnosis, please make sure you ask your clinician who will be doing the testing if you should be using your medication as prescribed or not prior to the testing sessions. There are many reasons that we will sometimes ask a client to be on their medication versus being off their medication for certain testing. It could be on some days that you do take your ADHD medication before testing and other days you don't, or that you always do or always don't. For example, if you are getting retested to find out how the ADHD medication is working for you, that is going to be really important that you ask the clinician ahead of time whether or not you should continue your medication as prescribed. Those are my 3 tips of what you should never do before ADHD testing and one bonus tip. If you have any more questions about things that you shouldn't maybe do before testing, feel free to leave a comment below. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.